Has someone said to you, someday you might look back at this and see it as a gift? And a part of you that is still bleeding will want to throw something across the room, because right now, calling it as a gift feels like a slap. And it feels like being told what was done to you wasn't that bad. So let me be very clear before we go any further. The betrayal was not a gift. What he did was not a gift. And you do not owe anyone, not him, not the universe, not to yourself, gratitude what was being betrayed. But something else is happening quietly underneath the wreckage. And that something is not a consolation prize. That is something might be the most important thing that has ever happened to you. I want to talk about what that is and how it has already started, even if the days you still feel hard. Because two things can be true at the same time. You can grieve the life you lost and recognize the woman who is being uncovered. Hi, I'm Eija, and on this channel I talk about what really happens and what really helps after betrayal. If this is your first time here, welcome. And if you have been with me for a while, I'm so glad you're back. The life you knew did end. That is true. I'm not going to pretend it didn't. The versions of you that woke up next to him and trusted the floor under your life was solid. She is gone. And it is okay to grieve her. She was real. She was good. She was doing her best with what she knew. But here's the thing almost no one tells you in the early days. The woman inside that life fit her barely. And only because she kept making herself smaller. When the life ended, you didn't end. You are still here. And for the first time in a very long time, maybe you have room. That is what people are awkwardly trying to point out when they say this can be a gift. They're not pointing at the betrayal. They're pointing at you. Let's talk about becoming who you really are, because this is the first piece of this. I want you to think about who you were before this relationship became what it became. Not who you were as a teenager. I mean the unedited version of you. The one who had opinions and wasn't always asking if they were too much. The one who knew what she wanted before she learned to want what was convenient. A lot of women in long marriages, especially women who are loyal and giving and patient, we don't just compromise. We edit slowly over years, so gradually that we don't notice that we are doing it. And one day we look up and we can't quite remember what we are like. The betrayal didn't take that woman from you. The betrayal exposed the fact that she had been quietly disappearing for a long time. And here's the thing, now that the contract is broken, now that you are no longer holding up a marriage that was, it turns out, built on something different than you thought, you do not have to keep editing yourself. That is not a small thing, that is enormous. You may have already noticed little signs of the old you or the real you. An opinion that feels completely you. A wellness routine that feels wonderful and freeing. These are not small things. They're her coming back online. And here's what I want you to hear. She was always there. You did not lose her in the marriage. She was just kind of folded away. And the folding, it can be uncomfortable because parts of you are still stiff from disuse. But that is not damage. That is reawakening. I'll tell you a small thing about my own unfolding. For years, I put my needs last. Finally, I didn't even realize that I was missing anything. I was practical, I was easygoing, I didn't need much. That was the story. So after betrayal, When I was finally living in a space that was only mine, I noticed how I was rearranging things, buying a lamp because I liked it, painted the bedroom the color I loved. None of it was a statement. None of it was about him. It happened slowly, one choice at a time that felt good to me. And somewhere there, I started to hear my own voice, the one that had always been there but had been quiet to keep the peace. And I don't mean it superficially. I mean it deeply, by becoming who you really are. Not to go back. Nobody walks out of a long marriage the same person who walked in. You have grown, you have changed. This is not returning to someone old. This is becoming your truest self. The one that walked through this hell and back has shown you how strong you actually are. Quick note, if any of this is landing, please subscribe so you don't miss the rest of this series. And if you want to talk about your specific situation, there's a link below to book a call with me. Now to the second piece. This one matters even more. The second piece is learning to trust yourself. And I want you to be careful here, because this is the part that the gift is hardest to see. The cruelest thing about betrayal is not just the lie, it's that afterward you don't trust your own mind anymore. You look back at every moment of the marriage and ask, did I miss something? How come I was so stupid? How did I not see it? And you start to feel like perception of yourself was broken, like you cannot be trusted to read reality. I want to name something. You were not naive. You are not foolish. You were trusting inside a relationship that was engineered to deceive you. There's a difference. A locked door doesn't call its owner stupid for noticing the lock was picked. But that doesn't change the fact that on the inside, you may still feel very shaky. Like your radar was broken, like you can't tell what is real anymore. Well, here is the gift. The gift is not that you became harder or paranoid or impossible to fool. The gift is that for the first time you start listening to yourself. Most of us never learned how. We were taught to be reasonable, not to make a fuss, to check our reaction with someone else before trusting it, to override small signals in our chest when we didn't match what someone else was telling us. We outsourced our own perception, often to the relationship itself. After betrayal, you can't do that anymore. Not really. The outside source you used to check against isn't reliable. And so you are forced, often painfully, to start checking with yourself. At first, it feels terrifying, but something happens slowly. You start to notice when something feels off, and you stop arguing yourself out of it. You notice a person at work whose words don't match their face, and you don't override the uneasiness. You notice how a certain conversation lands in your body, and you trust the landing. You stop asking 5 friends what they think before you act. You ask yourself first. This is self-trust, and it's not the kind that you have to manufacture. It's the kind that grows in the soil of having been forced to listen. Most women never built this. They go their entire lives outsourcing their own knowing to a husband, mother, father, culture, church, friends group. Not because they are weak, but because no one ever made them. That is the part of gift that is hardest to name. Not I am grateful this happened, but I am building a relationship with myself that I might not have built in any other way. And that relationship is the foundation of every good thing that comes after this. Every choice, every boundary, every yes, every no, every person you let close, every life you build. You can wish this never happened and notice that you are becoming someone you actually like. You can hate what was done to you and still quietly thank yourself for what you are doing with what was done to you. Okay, now the last one. Slow down, because the gift, if there is one, it is not from him. It is not from the betrayal. The gift is from you, from what you are doing day by day with something you did not choose. He did not give you anything. You are doing this. The unfolding, the listening, the learning to trust your own voice in the room. That is your work. That is your hand on your own life. So if I could leave you with one small thing today, this is it. Tonight, before you go to sleep, ask yourself one question and just listen. What did I notice today that old version me would have overwritten? Maybe it was a flicker of preference, a no that almost came out, a song, a taste, a person who felt wrong, a person who felt safe, anything, just notice. And when you notice it, say to yourself, that was her, that was me. The woman you knew, she is not gone. She was bigger than that life all along. And she is finally getting room to breathe. If this resonated, tell me in the comments one small thing you have noticed coming back to yourself. One preference, one opinion, one no, one spark. Not as a question to solve, just so you know you are not alone in this. I hope to see you in my next video. Love and light. Bye.